Horse and Friends Radio with Conrad and Raphael.
Hey, I'm Conrad Nodden.
And I'm Raphael Valle. And from Nashville, Tennessee, you're listening to
The Horse and Friends Radio Show. Of the horse, for the horse, and by the horse lovers everywhere. Well, Raphael, this is episode 2 already.
Oh, yeah.
What a great response from episode 1, huh?
Oh, that was great. You can't go wrong with Marianne and her music and, has a touch about the horses and everything.
Super. Combining
Absolutely.
Great passion for music with great passion for horses.
Yeah.
Just really good. Who do we have this week that we're going to be having as a special guest?
Well, we're going to have Melanie Sue Bowles. Her and her husband are the founders of Proud Spirit Horse Sanctuary. They started down in Florida and have been in Arkansas for the last couple of years. And she's also an author. Again, talking about passion and how you were inspired. Marianne said, well, Melanie was inspired to write books because of the horses.
She's got 3 books out already, right?
Correct. 2 about horses, and of course you can't have horses without having dogs. And so the third one that just came out is about the dogs too.
Great. I can't wait to have her call in and interview her. You had come across an article too that I thought was really pertinent that the folks would like to maybe come in on a little bit with us. It had to do with being a leader and how leadership has to do with great horse training. What was, maybe share a few thoughts with that.
I've subscribed to every magazine. I have a whole Library of Congress stacked in just reading about horses all the time. But it's in the current issue of Equine Wellness. It's actually the June issue of Equine Wellness, and it talks. The title of the article is "Is He Herd Bound?" And it talks about leadership. The reason why I thought it was a great article because people ask me, "How'd you develop that bond with Irie Powell?" And it's hard to explain. You can't, really put your finger on it. It's like when people say, "Hey, how do you, define love?" It's like it's one of those things that you know what it is when you feel it.
Yeah, that funny feeling in your stomach.
Yeah, funny feeling. That's with leadership. It's one of those things you can't. It drives my wife crazy because help me explain how it is, and I said, well, it's easy. You just gotta do this. But anyways, this article is great. And it basically, I think, just talks about how people, good to take the skills learned in the corporate world to horses. And just think about it. We all had experiences working. Some of the best leaders that we worked for, what is it that they inspire? Trust, communication. Well, they're fair. You respect them. Doesn't mean you could walk all over them, but they're fair.
Right.
And they set expectations, and they're sometimes mentors, and they gives and take. It's not all, their way or the highway.
And they motivate you with the right spirit, don't they?
Correct. They motivate it. So I think if people could relate to that, to how, it feels to work for a great boss, you wake up energized and looking forward to go to work, just like, translate it to a horse. They look forward to working with you, probably waiting for you at the gate and so forth.
But on the other hand, I think we've all had bosses that try to rule through intimidation and just heavy-handed, right? Yeah,
correct. We've all had those, and literally, it gives you totally opposite effect. There's no relationship there. There's no trust, no bond, and I've worked for those, and literally, no pun intended, it's a pain. That was. The name one of my bosses, Pain, poor thing, bad karma there.
Yeah, it's a pain in the south part of a northbound horse, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But, I think there are some trainers, too, that maybe are intimidated by the power of the horse and by the strength of the horse, and they feel that maybe they have to overpower the horse in some way, convince the horse that I'm boss and you're going to do it this way. And maybe the horse throws them off one time and they go, I'm going to have to really get tough here. That doesn't really work, does it?
No, it doesn't work. First of all, you think about a horse, 1,000-pound animal being, quote-unquote, controlled by a 200-pound individual. I mean, the horse could anytime buck us off or strike us, whatever. They don't do it out of the kindness of their heart. So we're not in control.
It's the wrong mentality. It's the wrong approach to the horse.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't understand that a horse has the capacity to be very sensitive, very intuitive. They pick up on our feelings, and they know when someone really likes them, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. See, and those are words that unfortunately society has beaten out of us. Intuition, feeling, heart. We have a society where the mind takes over and the ego takes over. So the horse doesn't understand about ego or anything and controlling. It's a partnership. And you look at to understand that better, you got to look at the horse and its herd dynamics. What is it? It's very energy bound. Mm-hmm. They're very in tune to where the stallion is, the alpha mare and so forth, attuned to where the predator's coming from. They feel it. And it's interesting. I was at a boarding barn one time, and this guy was leading out a horse. It was a cold morning for Florida standards, which probably people laughing, yeah, cold right in Florida, but it does get chilly in Florida at times. And he was leading this horse out, and the horse was feeling frisky. Well, instead of turning the horse towards him and releasing it, he released the horse with its face facing, the same direction the gentleman was facing.
Uh-oh.
Well, the horse took off
yeah.
and kicked
Yeah.
out. It wasn't the horse's fault. He was just feeling good.
Yeah.
And, what happens? The guy's, is like in pain and so forth. He gets up, goes into the house. 15 minutes later, goes into the pasture and starts whipping this horse. It's like, first of all, that horse has no idea what just happened. The horse but that's the difference between egos and mentality. The ego's like, I got to get this darn horse back. I got to let it know who's boss.
Right.
That horse had no idea. Then you wonder, but the horse is like, what the heck happened? The horse is like beyond that. First of all, it wasn't its fault.
Yeah.
The guy should have turned it around and before he let it go and kicked out. So that's the disconnect, and that's why when people ask us about how do you train ivory pal, it's a partnership. I mean, I'm first time horse owner. First of all, I had to educate myself on the dynamics of a horse, how they think. And that's where the leadership comes in. Leadership is about service. In this case, it's service for ivory pal and service for the horses.
And you know what? We can tell the way you've done that. When Ivory Pal is performing, he's enjoying himself. He's not doing it out of a duty. He's doing it with you as a partner, like you're a dance partner, really. I mean, you're on his back, but he's doing his thing, you're doing yours, and it's a very beautiful thing to see.
Thank you. And I hope he does it because he wants to, not because he's forced to or because he's intimidated. And that's the key. Yeah.
In fact, you told me when you were first training him, was it a neighbor that said, hey, your horse is out in the pasture practicing his moves or doing these strange things?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Like I said, pals, taught me so much for training on or practicing on the bows. And he's very compulsive, and he loves to play. And that's the key. You have to, when you're quote-unquote training a horse, you have to think it's playtime. They're learning, yeah? And, so we were trying to get the valve down, and sure enough, my neighbor calls and said, hey, listen, something's wrong with Ivory Pal. You better come out. And I was like, my heart's starting to race because I couldn't see the horse from Ivory Pal from where we used to live. And I run over to his pasture, and he's like, literally just bowed. I was like, so I was like, he thought it was fun. He was playing.
Practicing.
Yeah, so that was a great thing. It's part of those special moments.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of abused horses. We don't want to go into all that because it gets kind of negative, and I hate to see it personally. I don't.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. Yeah,
but we have a person that is a rescuer of a lot of those horses.
Yep.
And that's Melanie Sue Bowles. And I think we've got her on the line now.
Outstanding. We look forward to hearing from Melanie here.
Okay, on the line we have Melanie Sue Bowles, and we're so happy to have her today. This is our second episode. She is the founder of Proud Spirit Horse Sanctuary, and it's one of the longest existing privately run sanctuaries for horses in the United States. And Melanie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, and also congratulations, Melanie. I mean, first of all, because we're so thrilled having you. What you do is great, and I consider you a great friend for your passion and what you do for the horse industry. And congratulations, your 20-year anniversary of Proud Spirit. Boy, little did you know that Jim and you would be 20 years later. Where would you be at this point? It's amazing how it's evolved.
Boy, you got that right. When we started out, it was on 5 acres of land with just one horse in need, and we've evolved into this 320-acre award-winning facility, and it's been a pretty remarkable ride, that's for sure.
So tell us, how'd you go from one horse on 5 acres? What was it, down in Mayaca City, Florida, to
Yes.
Mena, Arkansas, with hundreds of acres, and how many horses now?
Well, we have 320 acres now, and we are actually currently caring for 65.
Wow, that's
Wow,
right.
terrific.
So
But over the years, we've intervened on over 300.
yeah, wow. And can you tell us a little bit about how has it evolved? How in your work, and what you learned from the horses, and how it's changed your life. I mean, that's I think what's a fascinating story that you went from. Think how old were you when you went to look for your first horse?
Well, let's see. I'm 53 now, so I was 33.
33, yeah. And so many of us can relate that we've always had the childhood dream of having
Yeah.
our own horse, and a lot of just because of financial situations or family situations, we have to wait later in life. Like I was 35 until I got my first horse, Ivory Pal. So we're kind of a similar path there as
Yeah,
far as
yeah.
the age.
Well, no, I was actually never horse crazy as a kid, and a lot of people have a hard time believing that.
Yeah,
but,
that is, yeah.
I mean, I loved all animals, but I was not a horse crazy little girl. And I had no desire to ride as an adult, but my husband and I earned our living as firefighters.
Yeah.
And we lived in a very busy, hectic town, and in an effort, our job was exhausting. It was stressful, and kind of in an effort to simplify our lives, we decided to move out to the country, and we bought a little house on 5 acres, and our days off work were serene and peaceful on this little country life, and we commuted to work, and all was well, but everyone around us had a horse. And I said to myself, geez, it just seems like getting a horse would be the next step in this simplification of our lives. Well,
Simplification, right?
that's not really what happened at all. I went looking for my first horse, and I was a complete novice. And the horse I brought home could not have been a worse match for a novice. She was more like an angry T-Rex than than the gentle trail horse I envisioned. But she took me on a journey of lessons and learning like nothing I've ever experienced before. And trust me when I tell you, she was the teacher.
Yeah, I understand that. It's in we always talk about the partnership. It's I've learned more from Ivory Powell than he's learned from me, and so I could totally relate to it.
Yeah.
So what are some of those lessons that you learned in this beautiful journey with these horses?
Well, the list is probably endless. Patience.
Definitely.
Accepting that dominion over animals does not mean we get to abuse and rule them. Dominion means that we have a obligation to take care of them. And I think one of the biggest things was that I learned that it was my responsibility to educate myself how to communicate with her.
Yeah.
And so that was the journey that I went on. I just started reading and speaking to every experienced horse person I could. I disregarded some of the things I heard and learned, and absorbed other things that I felt were more valuable.
Yeah, no, and when was it, obviously the journey never stops as far as learning, but when after reading books, educating yourself, and that's key. So many times, so many people abdicate the responsibility for the wellness of the horse to others, and that's something I totally agree with you, that it is our responsibility, and we have to educate ourselves and understand the horse. And when was it that you had that kind of like aha moment? I think I get this, or that moment where you were able to make that join up from the heart, I guess, if you want to call it, with your horse.
Well, as I mentioned, I brought home this thoroughbred mare who could not have been a worse match for a novice, and she, was constantly jerking me around and tossing her head, and I could barely lead her. That's how inexperienced I was. And one day, I think one of the most breakthrough moments that we had was I just was leaving her alone. She had I'd gotten injured a little bit, nothing serious, but just her fighting with me, or I should say me fighting with her, not her fighting with me.
Yeah.
just because I didn't know what I was doing. This was well over 20 years ago. But one day I was leaving her alone, and I was just hanging out with her, walking beside her, standing beside her. My shoulders were down, my head was down and relaxed, and she was just ambling along and grazing, and she turned to me, and she was all of a sudden curious about me.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that she was interested in me rather than trying to get away from me. And it was very profound. And it was literally the first time she had ever looked into my eyes.
Wow.
And I remember just tearing up, and I remember I refrained from touching her, and I didn't all of a sudden try to do something with her,
Yeah, just let that
I
moment
just let
be,
her
huh?
be, and I let the moment evolve, and I put my head down, and I remember just kind of ambling, and I backed up a little bit, and I'll never forget it. She stepped forward and followed me,
Wow.
and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Now, we know so much more now, and of course, I know so much more now. But back then, over 20 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of information out. And so this horse was, we'll use the term that Monty Roberts used. We'll use the word. She was joining up with me.
Yep.
And it was just very, very, it was extraordinary.
So in other words, horses can teach us an awful lot if we just let them, right, Melanie?
Oh yeah, boy. Some of the most meaningful moments that I have with horses is just relaxing, just standing near them and kind of taking cues from them, and if I keep my head down, I keep my shoulders relaxed, and it's just so meaningful when they come to you.
Tell us about what else you learned that you were so inspired to write 2 books about horses. How did that evolve?
We brought home a second horse, and he was a very well-trained quarter horse and perfect for a novice. And it was in my search for him that I saw so much mistreatment and abuse and disregarding a horse's emotional well-being.
Right. A lot of myths out there.
Yeah, and it was in my search for this second horse that I decided that I really cared nothing about riding. I invested in a saddle and everything I needed to ride, and I never enjoyed it. But I learned something. I realized that I could never live without horses, but I didn't care about riding. And a lot of people are surprised to learn that.
So you wanted the relationship there, didn't you?
Yeah, and
I totally understand that. So some of the best moments that I've had with Ivory Pal have not been under saddle, but on the ground, whether just sitting with him in the pasture or grooming him. I totally understand that.
Well, I know you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Melanie, speaking of one of your books, I have Hoof Prints here. More stories from Proud Spirit. I wanted to just share with the folks a paragraph, and then I wanted to ask you your experience on something. This, I guess, we're maybe a little bit biased here, but it's under the chapter regarding Ivory Pal. But the paragraph goes like this in your book. One of the things that Raphael enjoys more than anything is meeting people who tell him how moved they are by the obvious bond between him and Ivory Pal. And a monumental highlight was when a stranger came up to him after a recent performance and told him with tears in her eyes that, quote, "It looks like you're riding Pegasus. It seems that childhood dreams do come true." Well, that was very moving for her when she saw Ivory Pal. But your chapter also says how you felt when you first met Ivory Pal. Do you want to share that a little bit with the folks here?
Oh, yeah. He really is an exceptional horse, and Raphael and I met because a mutual friend asked us to get together because I was writing about the Tennessee walking horse industry and soaring. And so...
Maybe you should explain to some of the people. A lot of our listeners know what soaring is, but maybe you should just define that for some who may not be as familiar.
yeah, Raphael, do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. Sewing is ways to use through mechanical, chemical, or harsh ways to have the horse step up higher than what's natural. It's an unnatural gait, and talking about relationship and partnership, it's totally the opposite of that. And unfortunately, that like every industry, there has some not so good stuff, and unfortunately that's part of some of the walking horse folks. But the breed is a beautiful breed, and most people obviously don't do that. But the small percentage that does gives the breed a bad image.
Yeah, of course. Ivory Pal, as you know, Melody, is completely natural. So you were meeting the horse. He's not sored in any way. What was your experience there?
Oh yeah, no, he lives a beautiful, beautiful life. But Raphael invited me to his home to meet, so we could talk, and so that I could meet Ivory Pal. And he had just been giving him a bath, and he was still in the around the corner in the barn of the wash rack. And Raphael met me out in the driveway, and we introduced ourselves, and we shook hands and said hi. And he said, "Well, come on, and let's go meet Ivory Pal." And I remember just thinking that, I've met a lot of really, really beautiful horses, but when I came around the corner of the barn and Pal was just standing in the wash rack, and I was just struck so deeply by his presence, and he just seemed like even a bigger horse than what he really is, just because of his confidence and his you got to be careful about what words you use to describe a horse, because you get into that anthropomorphism, and
Yeah.
but he was so noble and so it was almost like he understood humans almost better than we understand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stepped forward to meet him, I remember, do you remember this, Raphael? It almost took my breath away. I mean, I actually inhaled a little bit. I went, I kind of gasped.
That. I remember. I would just step back and watch him.
It wasn't so much even his looks, although he is stunning. It was more his presence. And I almost felt like I needed to wait for Ivory Pal to invite me forward to touch him. And so I did. I stood, a little bit away from him, and I said something, I cooed to him a little bit, and I said something like, "Well, hello there, handsome." And
he liked that.
Can I buy you a drink?
What are you doing later?
Yeah.
But he put his head down a little bit, and his eyes, when he brought himself up, but he brought his nose down, our eyes were level. And he was just looking right at me. He was asking me to come forward, and he truly, truly is an extraordinary horse.
Now, Melanie, we want the friends listening to be able to get this book. It's by the Pineapple Press in Sarasota, Florida. Mm-hmm. Can they order it also from your website?
Oh, the book is available anywhere books are sold.
Great.
Nationwide, Amazon, any independent bookstore, the big chain bookstores. There's a link to Amazon on our website.
Melanie, and the name of the book is Hoofprints, More Stories from Proud Spirit. Now, and we can't thank you enough. We were so honored that you included a chapter of Ivory Pal. That just was just beyond,
Oh, I loved
flattering,
writing it.
but thank you so much. And then the first book you wrote was Proud Spirit, Horses from Proud Spirit. And like you said, it's not about the bad, the damage that's been done to the horses, but their spirit. And the Proud Spirit, such a great name for a sanctuary because of the pride of these horses and being able to overcome, to forgive, to teach us so many lessons about perseverance. We as humans dwell on the past and so forth, and haven't gone to nearly half is what these poor horses have gone through. And with the horses stuff, with every horse and barn, you got to have some dogs. Now, your most recent book is about the dogs of Proud Spirit. Can you explain a little bit about that one?
Well, when you open your home to animals in need, it becomes like a field of dreams, build it and they will come. And yes, we've taken in a lot of stray dogs, and the dedication in the book, The Dogs of Proud Spirit, well, I'll back up a little bit again. I'd gotten a lot of requests from people who had read both horse books that they wanted to know more about the dogs, so I decided to write the book about the dogs, and that one is entitled The Dogs of Proud Spirit. But the dedication to that one is, I'll just read it real quick, is to all dogs everywhere who are homeless in a shelter, tied to a tree, or abandoned to a lonely pen. I wish for you a gentle hand, a full belly, a warm place to sleep, and a family who will surround you with love. And so that's what we've tried to do with these homeless dogs.
Excellent.
It's a beautiful tribute, Melanie. And I'd like to mention to everybody listening that the proceeds from your book goes straight to supporting your sanctuary, both for the horses and the dogs. So not only is the book a great read and a must for any horse lover, but it's a great cause. Yeah, can't ask for a better combination.
And Melanie, can people make donations through your website if they're inclined to do so?
Yes, there's a How You Can Help page. Yeah, we can't survive without contributions. And yes, proceeds from book sales goes to the sanctuary. But the cool thing about book sales is that they are shining the light on the way animals deserve to be treated.
Indeed.
But
Absolutely.
at the same time, they're directly helping the sanctuary. So they're kind of a gift that gives twice.
Great.
Yeah.
Why don't you mention that website one more time so that the friends can take note of that?
Yeah, they can just Google Proud Spirit, or our website is horsesofproudspirit.org.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Melanie Sue Bowles has been with us explaining so many things about her experience about saving horses, running a wonderful sanctuary, Proud Spirit Horse Sanctuary, and a fantastic author of horses and dogs, and we support you 110% on all of that.
All the way, Melanie.
Keep
Thank
doing a
you
great
for
job.
having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
Thank you. And give the hugs and the dogs a big hugs, and of course say hi to Jim too. Don't want him left out.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, what a very interesting person, Melanie Sue Bowles there. She's doing such a fantastic
Great
work.
person. My hat's off to her for what she does and the passion that she brings to, It's
Absolutely.
amazing.
It's really sad when, even that horses have to be rescued these days, that they're being mistreated. But it's great that people are there putting their heart out there, their own money in most cases, rescuing these horses and helping them.
Yeah.
We were talking about people on the other end of the spectrum, that is good leaders. For the folks that might want to look up that article, what was that we had a reference to on the first part of the episode
Yeah,
here?
absolutely. It's in the June issue of Equine Wellness magazine, and the title of the article is He Herdbound, and the person that wrote it, their name is Korea Skull, so it was a very, very good article. I
Yeah.
think you could pick up the issue there at any bookstore, Books A Million or Barnes and Nobles, and I think Tractor Supply may also carry it.
So in future shows, we're going to have more of this wide variety of horse trainers, equine vets, and horse rescue ranches, more authors, more singer-songwriters, and a whole lot more fun. So, folks, stay tuned in, as they say, and be sure to keep watching for our next episode coming soon.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that one. It'll be another fun show.
So, folks, thanks for tuning in, as they say, and be sure to be watching for our next episode coming soon.
Until then, happy trails, everybody.
Hey, Raphael, I bet you can't do this.